Welcome to the C-Suite Sherpa podcast, where we shine a spotlight on business experts and resources you should know. And today we have a great guest. We have Chalyse from Mind Maven. So, Chalyse, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, tell us about your business and what you do and who you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm one of the senior executive coaches at Mind Maven. We actually are a team of executive coaches. We work with leaders in venture capital, private equity, startup, and tech at the C level or the founding level. Our goal is to work with these leaders to achieve their version of true greatness through how they take care of relationships. So it's a very unique thing that we do. We focus very heavily on relationships. And even though we've worked with some of the top leaders out there, we have yet to find a single person who has reached the top without the help from others. So we know relationships are important. We know that they help us to reach our full potential, but we're also pretty good at neglecting them, not because we don't care, but because it sort of falls into that category of important but not urgent. And we work with a lot of folks who are scaling businesses, running really fast-paced businesses. So, it's sort of this increasingly urgency-driven world that they're living in. Our goal is to help people solve that challenge through teaching them the power of intent, the skill of being less reactive, more proactive, more strategic, and the power of leverage. Leverage is working with your support team in such a way that you free up over 10 hours a week that you can then reallocate to the things that matter most. That's what we do and who we work with.
So let's dive into that. Let's talk about that because there are people, I guarantee, are watching this right now. They heard what you said. It sounded good, but they're not really sure whether they're one of those folks who needs your help. So kind of dive into what's going on in the life of an owner or a private equity venture capital, somebody who's working on deals that's really busy, that's sucked into the urgency trap. How do they know they need your help? When they come to you and they say, "Hey, I need help," what are they typically saying they need help with?
Yeah, absolutely. Being reactive, being too much in the weeds, and not having strong enough relationships. That's usually sort of like symptoms of a problem here that we are trying to solve. So when we talk about being too reactive and not enough proactive, we're basically seeing people chasing their messages, sinking 4+ hours a day in their inbox, scheduling their calendar is sort of a bit of a disarray. They're booked back to back. They don't have time for proactive deep work. They are just sort of jumping from one thing to another. Their things are falling through the cracks in terms of deliverables and promises and value that they have committed to, as well as following up on things they're waiting on from other people. So there's sort of like this almost status quo in a lot of the businesses we work with, that it's normal that only maybe 50% of the promises that are made are kept. And that's not how it needs to be. And our goal is to create a lot more of this sort of seeing those things through, building a reputation of people that they perceive you as someone who follows through, who's trustworthy, who's reliable, who does what they say, and does it with the level of experience that you would want to give to somebody that you care. Through building this reputation, stronger relationships, and being more valuable to the people you care about the most. So those are usually some of the most common symptoms, is just feeling of like just no traction, spinning my wheels, too much time in my inbox, doing too many meetings that I shouldn't be doing, saying yes to things that I shouldn't be saying yes to, and just constantly feeling like, where are things at? Where I'm chasing things down all the time and I'm not spending time taking care of people.
Yep. I've been a long time practitioner and now teacher of how to build trust-based relationships.
Mm,
Relationships are built on trust.
that's
And
right.
one of the things that really erodes trust is being out of integrity, saying I'll do something and not doing it.
Mm,
It's even worse coming back with an excuse of why you didn't do it, as opposed to just owning the fact that you did it. And these are symptoms of what you deal with, right? You're getting into root issues and helping people learn how to say no. I was taught by a great mentor that it's more about what you don't do than what you do that determines your success.
yeah,
It sounds like you're helping people prioritize because the world is changing so fast that we just can't keep up anymore.
yeah,
And we have to stop saying yes to everything. Or if we say yes, we got to learn how to delegate,
that's right.
which is also a trust issue, right? How many owners do you talk to or entrepreneurs that say, no one does it as well as I do, so I
Mm,
have to do it. It takes me longer to teach them than it would be for me to
mm.
do it. They've got to break out of that, and we can't do it on our own. So it sounds like that's what you're helping people do is really break out of that urgency trap and start building trust-based relationships.
That's right. And I think also, if I may just add, we always think about there's sort of the three archetypes of executives that we work with. The first is the flake, the second is the disciplined, and the third is the empowered. The first is the flake is that you overpromise and under deliver.
Mm.
And nobody wants to be that person. Then the discipline is sort of what you were just kind of alluding to. Is like maybe saying no more often, but even that's not foolproof. You don't have a system or those that you can trust to keep accountability and process in place. You're actually holding back on value because of a fear of not following through. And that's not optimal either. So the goal is to be empowered or superpowered, which is freely offering value where it makes sense without a worry that it's going to get done or not, because there's a process in place to ensure that 100% of the things that you're offering value around is actually happening.
So, tell me about the challenges you run into. A lot of folks say, "Hey, I really want your help." And it seems like you have to fight with them to help them. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing? And I'm not blaming them because they're really in a tough spot.
Yeah.
They're trying to deliver, they're trying to stretch so thin that it becomes overwhelming. What are some of the common challenges that you see that you help high performers or people that want to be high performers overcome?
Well, first, I think sometimes it's letting go.
Yeah.
To your point about trust, we first have to be willing to let go. For a case in point, our calendar, our inbox, those are highly sensitive areas of our life. It's our time and our relationships that's at stake there. And so we often have a hard time letting go. And we have to, that's step number one, getting to the point where you realize my time is too valuable to be doing my calendar. The question is never, is managing my calendar hard? The question is that where your time is best spent? That's the true question. Imagine you're in your calendar spending an hour or two a day just orchestrating your calendar, and then another 3 or 4 hours a day on your inbox. That could be time that could be half of that time you'd be liberated and offset to someone else you trust, right? The goal is you have to let go and articulate what are the things that matter to you that you want this person to protect. So that's the second thing. Clarity, your own clarity of what are your priorities, where is your time most impactful and valuable, and making sure you have the processes and safety retaining walls to protect those things, including your support team, your support resource, and the people around you. And I think the other thing is systems. Sometimes people don't have the time to set up these systems or methodologies. And so it's better to do it as it's always been done, even though we know in the back of our mind it's probably not the best way to do it. It's the way that's worked up to this point. So we're going to keep trucking along. So it's lack of clarity, maybe this process of letting go, and then of course systems and leveraging tools that will help you to get the most out of your own time and out of the people around you.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Full confession, I've started half a dozen companies, and it took me three or four to start to figure out that the very thing that made it great in the beginning became the very thing that kept it from growing
Yes.
because I was the bottleneck and I was a control freak.
Mm.
I'm a recovering control freak. That's my nature. I have to be in control because I care. And I tell myself nobody cares as much as I do. But I also found myself not being able to help people and not being able to affect the kind of change that I wanted to because I didn't have enough time in a day. And I think a lot of founders and entrepreneurs really fall into that category. It is about the perception of losing control. What I found was by trusting people and delegating and building good operating procedures. If I really wanted to say, here's what I expect, I had to automate it or put a procedure in place that at least people could follow. Because, job as a leader is not to do things. It's
Mhm.
to create clarity, direction, and alignment so that all the resources in the organization are aligned around doing what's most important.
Yeah.
That's our job. Our team's looking for us to do that. And
It
so
starts
I'm
from the top. That's right.
so excited to hear that there's another set of resources out there helping people get through that because that's a tough knothole to get through. It's
It
scary.
is. And
Scary
I
to
think
let.
often people think that having an EA, for instance, is a luxury. I would argue it's actually the most important hire you can make. Imagine if you're able to free up 5, 6 hours of your day, what would you use that time for?
Right.
Sourcing, business development, product development, mentorship of the team, whatever it might be, fill in the blank. That's where your time is more unique, not managing your calendar, inbox, action items, follow-ups, databases, a CRM. All of those things can be done by someone else. Your time is unique somewhere else. But every time, to your earlier point, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
That's
And
right.
what is that? What are you saying no to when you're in the weeds? Well, I could be spending 4 hours writing thought leadership content that I should be doing for more exposure for what we're trying to do. But I can't do that because I'm in the weeds. So
One of the ways we wake up our clients, we say, it sounds like you're spending too much time doing $20 an hour tasks that you don't have the time to do the $1,000 an hour stuff that you're gifted at. They go,
that's right.
well, if you put it that way, I'm like,
Like, dang, fine.
What are the way is there to put it? I mean, that was my breakthrough. I realized that I was saying no to the important stuff, and it's easy to start developing a victim mentality, like I'm working too hard, nobody appreciates me. I remind people, who's running the company? They say, well, I am. So nobody's making you do that. Those are choices. And so you're helping people make the right choices, which is great. So I wish we had another couple hours to dive into this because I love this topic. But I'm going to pivot here. I want to do something a little bit fun to help people just kind of get to know you personally. So I call it the lightning round. I'm going to ask you some quick questions and just give me some quick answers. Don't think about it, just whatever comes to mind. So you
All
ready?
right. Okay, I think so.
Here we go. So I'll start off with an easy one. How about coffee or tea?
Coffee.
How about cats or dogs?
Oh, that's hard. I have two cats and two dogs, even split.
That's okay.
I think cats now. The older I get, the more I'm a cat person.
That's perfectly fine. I'm a dog person. If you can only grab one item right when the zombie apocalypse breaks out, what would you grab?
Oh gosh, probably a weapon of some kind.
A favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
Maya Angelou, that I'm paraphrasing here, that people are not going to remember what you did, but how you made them feel.
Yeah, I love that one. Movie or streaming series that you'd recommend?
Gosh, I am in the middle of Yellowstone. It's pretty good so far. I'm really not that far in, so I don't know if it goes downhill or not. Don't tell me, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Keep watching. How about a book? You have a book that you have read that has really impacted you that you'd recommend others?
That is a good one. I read a lot of self-help books, a lot of practical books. I did one actually for I've done some parenting books. I've done some marriage books. And then of course I've done Extreme Ownership. That's a really great book as well. So it's hard to choose one.
Is that the Jocko Willink book?
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, so Extreme, I think it was Extreme Leadership was the book. Anyway, I'm
Yeah,
horrible at
yeah.
remembering author.
Jackal Willing, I think is his name.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Willink, exactly. Okay. So what about bucket list item that you've already accomplished?
Oh, I've been out of the country, which is something that growing up didn't know that I would be able to do. So I've been out of the country a couple of times and took my family on vacation. And that was such a pleasure to go see different cultures and travel. Definitely got hit with the travel bug. So I wanted to have a longer bucket list now.
Cool. All right, last question. Biggest obstacle that you've personally had to overcome. What's one big takeaway lesson that you learned from it?
Oh yeah. Gosh, and going back to sort of, what I do for work and what I do personally, it does overlap. One of the things that I am known to be is sort of like more of a task-oriented person, somebody who finds comfort in control and structure. And so finding that ability to let go has been a challenge for me in business and in running a family. I have three teenage kids. One of them is an adult. So I've really had to practice the art of letting go, especially recently in both parts of my life, work-wise and personal-wise, and letting go and trusting others empowering them and believing that they can do it as well or better than I can. That's impacted the way I run my business, how I relate to my kids, how I carry on in my marriage and all of those things. So just being able to let go.
Knowing it and doing it are two different things.
Right?
It's so easy to give advice. It's really hard to follow our own advice sometimes.
Yeah.
I
It's like
appreciate
doctors are the
that.
worst patients, right? It's the same kind of idea. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
taking that advice
yeah,
and living it is different than telling
yeah,
other people.
exactly. Well, I appreciate you acknowledging that vulnerability is a great trait. I appreciate that. Wish we had more time. I appreciate you being on the podcast. Before we let you go, there are people that want to know how to get in touch with you because they are having a hard time letting go and need some help. How would people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think the best way is either through my LinkedIn, sending me a message there. We have a website contact page there that usually comes to me, especially if you mention my name. We do have a team of coaches, but if you mention my name, you can reach me that way too. And then also just an email, Chalyse@mymaven.com.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and post all that on the YouTube channel where this video is being seen right now. If you're watching this, go to the description. You'll find all of Shalisa's contact information. Don't worry about trying to capture all that. We've got you covered. Shalise, thanks. Appreciate you being on the podcast and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Likewise, it's a pleasure, Ryan. Thanks so much.